So today, Davóg, very, very happy to have you on. We actually met in the flesh once, and I checked it. It was the 4th of March, 2010,
Gosh, where?
in Lyon. 4th of March,
Okay.
2010. I was playing in a thing called Celtitudes. Don't know if you remember that festival in Villeurbanne. A guy called Didier Vos was the organizer.
Yeah, vaguely,
And
yeah.
I think that night Rory Delaney was playing in a pub. And I'm pretty sure you were there too.
It's very likely that I was there. I would have been hanging because that would have been just when I was starting to check out the music scene and the Irish music scene and getting into playing music myself around that period of time.
Well, we decided to call today's WTF Why the Folk.
Why the folk?
Now, why the folk? Now, why the folk are we here? One of the things that you'll hate this because you're a very modest person, but one of the things that I admire about you is your authenticity, which is something that I always aspired to.
Yeah.
But it's like there's no bullshit, basically. You are what you are. You do what
Ah,
you do.
yeah, ah,
You
yeah.
don't play the wild rover. Where does all that come from?
I won't put on an act. Um, Gosh, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I suppose it just comes from keeping it real. Like, I mean, I feel very passionate about what I do. Since I've kind of discovered that, got the grip of it. I suppose got the bug. But I've always loved it. Even because I started out acting in my early years. So I was an aspiring late teenage actor
You were
working in the
almost
Abbey
in
Theatre.
what was that film that you were almost in?
Yeah, I nearly got the commitments, man. I
That's the
nearly
one.
got the
Yeah,
commitments.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
in fact, I won't say it was because of the commitments, but it was a period of time in Dublin where it was bloody hard as an unemployed actor.
Right.
And immigration was a big thing. And summertime was coming. And I fell in love with a German girl and I said, fuck her, I'm out of here. That's it.
And we talked about this before because I was in Germany in '91. I actually saw Christy Moore in Gießen in 1991.
Oh, gosh, yes.
When were you out there? Just before, just after?
I moved to Germany. I moved to Berlin in 1989, just after the wall came down.
Right.
Just after the wall came down, I lived in Germany. I lived in Berlin. I had a great time in Germany, man. I was in my early 20s. The whole of Berlin was in party mode because the wall had just come down, and they were all the cousins were getting to see each other, and all the families were coming across border. But there's no border anymore. There's no wall. We can do what we like.
It was very punk, wasn't it, Berlin at that time?
Dude, it was unreal, and that's where techno music started. And of course, I went straight in, head first into that, taking the fucking having the crack.
How do we go from techno to doing what you're doing today? Your last album, Come to the Path, it's very brave, spoken word.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I've got it, listened to it, and I remember listening to it and thinking he's probably going to sing in the next one. But then I got the idea and the vibe what was going on. But very interesting.
Yeah,
But it's
come
not
to the
techno.
path. It's really it became a COVID project, really, because we were sitting around like, fuck, what are we doing? And there was this fella that I met. Well, let me think about this now. Yeah, the local lad. I was doing online, as we were, a lot of us musicians were doing at the time. We were doing online concerts.
That's right.
Trying to make a couple of quid, geez, no concert, so let's try and do something. So I did a local here in the village where I live in the Beaujolais. They have a page like a lot of villages have, and they have their own page. And one of the guys who runs that page asked me if I'd do a concert on the page. And I said, sure, I'll do it. Like, yeah, bloody rebel, yeah. It was grand, lovely, did an hour concert for them. And this guy, Nicola, gets in touch with me. And Nicola lives over the other side of the village. And smart Nicola, has a fucking home studio and knows how to fiddle with the buttons, like, do you know what I mean?
I like the way that now you're saying feckin', but you've already said the other word about 5 times.
All right, yeah, well,
I can't use any of this.
Listen, Jim, you know what it's like when you're living abroad and all of a sudden you get to speak English with somebody and you just rattle it out, like,
Authentic was the word we said, so let's just keep it real, yeah.
And do you know what's funny when I go back to Ireland?
Yeah.
Is I come out with some phrases and people kind of look at me and say, geez, I haven't heard that phrase in 20, 30 years. Because I still speak the way we used to speak back then.
That's the way.
You know what I mean, going back home to your part of the world, I'm sure.
That's part of the reason why I call it the WTF, but it's never that WTF, because I realized that people today, just everybody's using the same expressions. People are talking the same way. They're saying the same stuff, and it's very, very lazy.
Yeah, it is, and it's yeah, it is. There's a friend of mine down in County Wexford, and they have a great accent down in County Wexford, which is in the southeast of Ireland. And he's a folklorist, and he's always on about this. He says, God, we're losing our accents. Every county in Ireland had its own precious accent, its own expressions, its own name for this, for that, whatever. And it's starting to all kind of like.
The only person I've ever not been able to understand was he was a cook in Lyon, actually. He was from Cork.
All right.
Couldn't understand a word he said. We were a bit pissed as well, but this is going back about 15 years. And we sat there and had a chat for about 2 hours. Didn't understand a single
Didn't
word.
understand a word, doesn't matter effect, as long as the pints were flying.
That's another touchy subject that we won't get into. Yeah.
Huh?
When I follow you on, and a lot of people do on Facebook and on Bandcamp and different things, and I get the impression that half the time you're on the road, really busy, always going somewhere, but half the time it's a struggle to find gigs. Is that true, or what's the situation?
Oh my God! I'm just back now from a very good year last year. 2024 was a very good year, and it was partly sometimes it was so busy that I didn't have time to do just that what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, and I'm feeling the brunt of that now because I'm not in on time for certain things.
Right.
It's a grueling fucking process. It's the thing that we all hate, and we all got to do, and well, not all of us, but those of us at a certain level of exposure. Let's put it like that, hey.
Yeah.
Others, of course, manage to have a team behind them, or have management, or have. You know, but I'm not at that stage yet, unfortunately. I don't know when that stage will come.
I think there's a glass ceiling, I think.
There could be something to do with
maybe age. We're not beautiful enough.
Listen, do you know what? Don't come to me with that. Oh, Jesus. Anyway. I actually, you know, it crossed my mind in the last while that maybe it's time to shave the beard. But shaving the beard puts me into a different dimension, like, do you know what I mean? And Gangani won't work without a beard. That's my alter ego, of course, which gets me quite a bit of work. And last year Gangani was quite successful, like, you know,
the festival
was more successful than Davóg was.
What was going on in Portugal with Gangani?
That was man. I've been in touch with this woman for the last 5 years. I saw her during the whole Brexit thing. I saw her. She interrupted a Sky News interview, and they let her go. They let it go, and she just ranted. She was a Portuguese woman living in England. Brexit was happening. She's got 2 autistic children, and she had to move. She had to move back to Portugal, basically, because Brexit was just created her. She lost all of her children's rights, her children's disability rights, because all of a sudden she was considered a different foreign national. Anyway. A whole thing. So I became friends with her. I just said, gosh, she's a brave woman, fair play to her. And I clicked add friend, you know, the way, like, do you know what I mean? And we've been kind of friends since. And then she saw my Gangani personage develop. This was 5 years ago. My Gangani personage developed. And she was, in the meantime, working with these mask guys over in Portugal, trying to revive this tradition that they have over there. It's like any kind of pre-Christian tradition. Of wearing masks, scaring people. It could be to do with there's no sacrifice involved now, let's be honest.
Yeah, you say that, but you know.
It's a lot to do with shaking the winter blues as well, like, you know, let there be light, and you know, chasing the dark. And, you know, I mean, the month of January for me, I don't know about yourself, Jim, but for me, the month of January is one I have to keep busy, because I'll fall into that little trap of the dark cloud will start to come over, and like, ooh, be careful.
When's Imbolc?
Imbolc is soon.
February?
Yeah, it is the beginning of February. Yeah, it's the 1st of February.
That's why we just start kind of feeling a bit kind of optimistic again.
Yeah, the light's coming in, man. The light's coming in, and that's something that I've discovered over the last, say, 5 or 6 years. And one of the reasons why I've got this huge draw to go to Wales is because Wales for me is the fucking mecca of druidism. And I've just fallen in love with the whole concept of druidism. Not this kind of wishy-washy kind of way that is presented in this day and age, but just the real values of druidism. It's great. It's ecology. It's ecological. it's in communication with the nature. It's the changing of the seasons. It's the basics, really, isn't it? Like, and just
yeah,
just showing respect for Mother Nature, like, you know.
I'm glad to hear you saying positive things about Wales because I mean, in France, if you ask people about Celtic countries, it's Ireland, Scotland, and that's it. And Wales, what's that? You know?
No. I was very nicely surprised at it because I was invited. Good God, I was invited somewhere. I was invited to go to, of all things, last year. I was invited to go to the Festival Interceltic at Lorient.
You're a lucky man.
Quel prestige, quel honneur, quel mon Dieu, mon Dieu, mon Dieu. I mean, franchement, quoi. J'étais gâté. I was sitting beside myself and looking at myself and saying, "You've arrived, buddy."
One of the reasons I kind of lost faith in the whole thing was when it was the year of Wales, 2018, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And I lived 45 minutes away. And I considered myself the ambassador of Welsh music in France. And I did everything to try and get in there. And they brought people in who had basically sod all to do with Wales. And I was so gutted. So well done. Lucky bastard.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It wasn't the festival themselves who invited me. I have a friend who works in the embassy. I had a friend who works in the embassy in Irish embassy in Paris, and we were talking, and because they're going to go to, because Ireland were the invitees, etc., etc. And he said, "Why aren't you at it? I mean, what's going on?" I said, "Are you fucking right? What's going on?" Like, you know. So he pushed the door and kept pushing it for 4 or 5 months, and result of course, voilà quoi. But you know, I mean, this is one of the hugely frustrating things as an Irish artist. Now, I'm trying to get rid of that whole Irish tag. It's dreadful over here in France. You get pushed into this category of cliche and ditch and
alcoholics and stuff. Yeah,
and it's just not my world anymore.
So Gangani is pan-Celtic or just a druid thing, or it's something else?
Right, Gangani is one thing. It could be a children's show. Gangani is also related to Wales, and this is one of the reasons why I'm fascinated to go to Wales and to discover more. And to Gangani is a name I came across. I was looking for one of the first ever maps made of Europe, of Ireland, basically. So I went into the archaeological sites and looking for early maps, and came across the very first map of Europe was made by a fellow called Ptolemy, who was a Greek military lad, very handy at making maps and drawing or whatever, like, you know what I mean? So he went around the whole coast of Italy, all the way around France and up around to Belgium and all around England and Ireland, and made these fairly rudimentary maps. Now, in fairness to him, he didn't get it right every time. And over these maps, he'd name tribes that he would have heard because they'd stop off and they'd stop off at a port and they'd communicate on. And so Ireland, over where I come from, is the name Gangani. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Well, I was taken by it immediately. And you look further into it, and then you see there was a Gangani tribe in the north of Wales as well.
Yeah, northwest.
Northwest, exactly. Right up at the very tip. Right up at the very tip. Used to be called anyway.
Gwynedd, yeah.
Right on. And that just... So then you find out that there's in India, of all places, that there's a Gangani village. There's Gangani peninsulas. There's a little mountain. There's all sorts of Gangani connections. So I just took that and playing the fucking Indian jaw harp because of it, kind of a thing, like, you know, so... But Gangani is he's an old druid, really. He's an old druid, and I'm trying to make these connections with the Silk Road, and I just let my imagination get carried away with itself. So I bring Gangani to the tribe over in Portugal, and all of a sudden there's a Gangani tribe there. Why not? I play a bit of music with Moroccans, and let's bring in the Berber tribes. You know, Gangani and the Berber tribes. Because I love collaborating. I'd never really form a band, but collaborating is the thing. Sorry, I'm ranting. I'm going on
now. No, it's all right. I'm aware that I'm taking your time as well.
No.
Oh well, that's fine because I could go on for hours. Well, you could. I'll just keep feeding you. So it's kind of, again, I started off talking about authenticity and folk music. Cerddoriaeth Gwerin in Welsh. It's music of the people and stuff, you know. So Gangani is actually, it's completely invented, but based on historical fact. But at the same time, it's strangely authentic as well. You're looking for a different way of expressing.
Kind of like modern mythology, I suppose. It's dabbling in old mythology and trying to bring it into it. And you know, whatever it was, I knew that I wanted to do something else and create a side personage, to do Théâtre de la Rue, to work with circuses if I could, or to do other stuff than just because this is what we have to do to make a living out of it. You know, it is. Yeah. If you're going to be just a one man with your guitar and your own folk songs, you're going to struggle. Really, you really are. I mean,
well, you end up in a lot of really badly organized concerts, basically, because you end up accepting things that you shouldn't be accepting, and that's why I look older than you, even though you're older than me.
No, that's stuck now. Sorry.
Well, a couple of things. We'll have to go to Wales together. That would be very, very
nice.
very.
Yeah,
you could stay at ours, travel around, see what's going on. The other thing, when are you in Brittany?
I'm hoping to be back in Brittany. I've sent in a proposal to the Inter-Celtic lads, and I talked to one of them to see if they'll bite at it. I sent in a proposal with a couple of different musicians, friends of mine, and a storyteller, Davóg Rynne, who's half Irish, half French. Really nice lad. You've seen him on my socials over the past.
Right.
And just a few different things. They've come back to me positive, but we'll see. Maybe just it mightn't happen that they'll take the whole lot. They might take a portion of it. They might just take me, which is fine with me, which is really the object of the exercise. But you know, I thought I'd throw in, because I was really, I was so disappointed with the presentation of the Irish delegation.
Go on. What was the problem with it?
The Irish delegation.
Was it very kind of kitsch and cliched? And...
Oh man, yeah, very exclusive. Like, you know, I mean, it was a funny one, man. You know what it's like when you're living abroad for many years.
Oh yeah.
You know, the country changes. You do change yourself, but you still have the same way of thinking that we used to have 30 years ago. But they've moved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just. Well, for a start, what I was very surprised with was the delegation were mostly Dublin musicians. There weren't many, and none of them were professional musicians. A lot of them were teachers who just can play a bit of music and are on a nice little holiday break. I'm just telling it the way it was, man. And
show business.
Yeah, you know, and this is show business, man. Yeah, and also, you know, there was a bit of a snootiness involved, like, you know, the Irish are here, because we do as if you compare it with other Celtic countries worldwide, because of immigration, we've got a very large reach. You know what I mean? Our music reaches.
It's always bigger when it's Ireland, isn't it? It's Ireland's like this, Scotland's like this, Brittany's like this, and then you've got Wales and Galicia and other things. So you've got the back end as the financial.
And the only thing I can say about that, by the experience I had last year with the Irish delegation, was be a bit humble, you know, be a little bit humble and be nice, you know, because they weren't.
Is that right?
And I just didn't like. Well, you see, they didn't know who I was, and I was going around speaking French to everyone, so I was just another French lad, really. Strange looking one, but I was another, you know, from their point of view. So they just kept on reacting with me as they were with any French person that they were coming across, and that was a bit snobbish. And then I went down stage, did my thing, and they were all over me like fucking, you know what? And I just didn't like the vibe, man. So I'm trying to muscle in there and fucking take over.
It's an exercise in humility sometimes. You and me living abroad, and when I do something and there's a Welsh delegation, then exactly the same. They have no idea who I am, and you feel like taking out a CV and saying, you know, here's who I am. Here's what I've been doing. I've been doing your job for you because you do sod all, you know. And then they say, oh, you must come, and you get a message straight away 5 minutes later from the ambassador or whatever saying, well, you must
that kind of stuff.
Come and have champagne with us in the lodge. You're like, come on. Yeah.
And it's even worse because over here, what happens is with anything that is actually Irish over here is very Paris orientated, and they don't look outside of Paris. No. So they do anything. They organize their little cliche things up in Paris. And certainly don't use any Irish artists over here. There's a big centre, a centre culturel along there, Barry. And part of their they have a venue, they have residential for the artists, and they bring artists out from Ireland all the time, because as part of their protocol is to expose Irish artists to Europe. This is the next foothold into Europe for the Irish artists. I get it. It's a good idea and fair play. But Jesus, I mean, give the old fucking poor sod who's over here trying to do a bit of work. Give him a bit of a break, like, do you know what I mean? Anyway, it's not going to happen. So I burnt my bridges with a lot of these people as well because I opened my big fucking mouth, you know what I mean?
I'm waiting. I think the wheel turns, and I'm waiting for that moment where we become legends, or the old men of folk, and then I can get back out there again. And people take you seriously, So, but I'll need to get some of this going, and there's something up here as well. Just before I leave you, is there another album coming up, or are you going to stay where you are for the moment?
No, I am thinking along the lines of another album, and I tell you what I'm thinking of recording a live album.
Oh, great.
I'm thinking of recording a live album. I'm honestly, Jim, I'm not a fan of the studio. I don't like this way of calculating and putting this in there. Any albums that I have done, my first album, Talk to Me, is my only singing album. 3 days, man, I did it. I did it in 3 days, and I'm not saying that because well, it's expensive for a start making an album, and 3 days in the studio is still near talking about $1,000, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Some lads, and this is what drives me nuts about the whole thing, is some lads will spend 6 months in the studio and thousands, and then they put it up on Spotify when it comes up,
and they get 50 euros back after 6 months or so. Yeah,
no, not even. My uncle Christy Moore, do you know how much he got from Spotify last year?
Go on.
164 euros. I mean, it's
better than me.
It's but it's the point. The point is that you're devaluing your music as a musician. You're completely devaluing your music by giving it away, basically.
You got yours all taken down and then put it out on Bandcamp, yeah.
Yeah, I took it all down from that whole streaming thing when it started to really kick off, because I was evidently, like everyone else, I was dabbling in and trying to, this might work, that might work, this might work. And then you realize, hold on a minute, hang on, hang about. And it's about, you talked about earlier on authenticity. Well, being authentic also means it's showing respect for the work that you're doing. Good point. Yeah. And showing respect for the instruments and for your voice and minding yourself and it's all part and parcel of it. I feel very privileged to be doing what I do. I do a lot of concerts as well in disabled folks' homes. And last week I was in a trauma unit, which was so powerful to be with these people, and it's a real privilege. It's a real privilege, that kind of work.